as we again take a flip through these Picturegoer magazines. If you've seen any of the others, we were flipping through and finding some really quite interesting articles about Elvis Presley, which I'm hoping this is the next issue that continues that saga. And as you can see, it's beautifully graced on the front cover. Marilyn Monroe. I think we went slightly out of date order, so we will come back to the November the 3rd, where, as you can see, there is another article about Elvis Presley before we continue into the other months of 1956, and these ones that we've already done, which you'll find videos of on my channel. Now this one I did cheekily have a little flip through just to check, and in fact there's actually several different articles in here that I think are really quite interesting, so let's make ourselves comfortable and continue with this November the 17th, 1956 issue. Again, containing the glorious, nostalgic adverts. This one's advertising the film Marilyn Monroe Bus Stop, now on release of Don Murray. Gift sets by Cousins. For some reason that really reminds me of Christmas. So next week's releases, somebody up there likes me. Bus Stop, House of Secrets, out on parade at the moment. It's the films. Music. Mountain, Kangaroo. The Stars Unfair to Us, Joan Crawford is right. The Most Fabulous Star, Picturegoer, September the 29th. Younger stars aren't fair to their fans. Brian Don Levy wrote to me, every Christmas Nelson Eddy sent me tea during rationing, and Betty Davis signed photographs, loves to Audrey Spence. I'm sure that's Dean Martos has changed partners. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis are right to split up. They were a balanced act in the early Owner films, but in Partners there's too much Lewis and not enough Martin. Interesting letters that have been written in. Stop mooning about Dean. This boy's better. He beats even Brando. Do you know who they're talking about? I did actually have a little glimpse. Even in Hollywood, tragedy has its own kind of cockeyed justice. James Dean car crash last year killed one brilliant screen career, but ironically, it virtually gave birth to another. The Dean was scheduled to play Rocky Graziano, the ex-juvenile delinquent who became middleweight boxing champion of the world in Somebody Up There Likes Me. And even as Hollywood was mourning the amazing Dean, a new actor was picked to fill the part. Graziano here to America and gives everything to an actor, but in return the actor has to give everything too. It is a role as intense as Brando's in On the Waterfront, as complex as Dean's in Rebel Without a Cause, but it has an added warmth, for Graziano is a real person. Newman is superb. Unhesitatingly, I say that his performance couldn't have been bettered by Dean or by Brando. Newman plays it as though the whole of his 31 years had been spent in waiting and planning for just such a part. More important though, in this film Newman finally shakes off the jinx that has dogged him since he arrived in Hollywood. A graduate of the New York Actors Studio, handicap, now in remarkable resemblance to Brando. He does, doesn't he? And now in Somebody Out There Likes Me, some people are going to say that Newman acts like Brando. Don't be one of them. What you're seeing in the film is not an imitation of Brando, but an exact interpretation of Graziano, a stumble-bum Italian-American boxer who speaks in slurred, barely articulate fits, and starts not because the method men taught him to speak that way, but because he never learned any different, whose furtive slouch is a product not of New York studio, but of the East Side slums of New York. As Newman himself says, when Marlon was on Broadway, he met the real Graziano. That's how he picked up a lot of his walk and talk, and he adds a little trifle bitterly, now I've got to play Graziano, and they'll say, I'm just like Brando. Just how important Somebody Out There Likes Me is to Newman can be judged by his inauspicious beginnings in Hollywood. In The Selfish Alice, he had little to do but stand around and gape at Jack Palance. In The Wreck, he showed promise, but as one character in Somebody Out There Likes Me, he says, all youngsters are promising. He should sue the young for breach of promise. We can't sue Newman, though. His performance here comes as a staggering surprise. Even now, Hollywood is talking about this portrayal as Oscar material. Newman's offset is a far more manageable character than either Brando is or Dean was, but he has a deep seriousness and honesty about his work. At MGM, where the film was made, he talked out of the turn more than once. They wanted me to play the character for comedy, and you can't make anything threatening out of a buffoon. Rocky had to be more than a poor, misunderstood kid. He had to be brutal, because his only business was survival. Newman won. Now he wants to play Billy the Kid. He's been nagging Warners, to whom he's under contract about it for months, but they think it ought to end happily. When the credits of Somebody Up There Likes Me were flashed onto the screen at the Hollywood preview, Newman's name didn't rate a clap. After the film, the credits came on again. This time Newman got a rousing cheer. Oh, wonderful. In the film business, life and work go on, no matter what, so forget about what James Dean might have been. Let's honour instead what Newman, this exciting new star, is. To show business youngsters, take a look at the film capital. Those phonies spoil Hollywood, says Jackie Douglas. On the barefoot Jackie Douglas wriggled her toes, beat her long arms out crazy. First on the British girls who went there. After a year in the film capital, she was back in Britain gasping, what an education. She explained away her bare toes. Bongo drums, a new name like this, well, it makes me feel free. Not sure what I'm talking about. Yeah. Let's have a little read about the cover girl. prison in which she has allowed no press visitors and has had her publicity wings clipped so that she can barely move to flutter the headlines. To freedom from the rumours and sniping that the press ban has aroused. Remember, Picturegoer of October the 13th said, "It's all your fault, Olivia." To better health. She's at days of indisposed and certainly hasn't been on the top of the world, and looking forward to making the Jean Harlow story at 20th Century Fox Studios. This sounds as if it's right up her film street, and I'll bet she knows it too. If you like Marilyn Monroe, we have been reading a book together that you'll also find on my channel. Growing Up There is Murder. Now the Hollywood boy who came here when he was in British Skipped, filmed with British and everyone agreed on his charm. The Man Who Fought for Stardom. At Britain's brightest hopes for stardom, was Michael Craig left and Tony Wright, but they're also a study in the stark contrasts. Last week, Margaret Hinksman started by introducing you to Craig, the reluctant star. Now Derek Walker turns the spotlight on Tony Wright. And then next week's magazine, we have Jane Mansfield Tells All. It's an exciting new series by Hollywood's latest pin-up bombshell. There's no shortage of stars to be. But the head of 20th Century Fox emits recently sounded the disaster note. Christ says he cried competition for players leads stars to demand full picture compensation for appearing in only two. The need for talent constitutes a drought. Nonsense, added thinking, and Buddy is an Adler, in this case Elizabeth Mueller, Glasgow's Grant Williams, Carol Baker. The Beverly Sisters Act I'm talking about. It says they're not splitting up. They're not splitting up. The Oscar that came 2 years too soon. It's a wonderful Audrey Hepburn. As heroine of Tolstoy War and Peace, Audrey Hepburn shows that sex appeal needs no curvy shape, no come hither look. So it says, after Audrey Hepburn collected her Oscar in 1954 for her performance in Roman Holiday, her producer Don Hartman delivered a crushing blow to the girl's ego. There is no evidence, he said, that Audrey Hepburn is a full star yet. The question that has to be answered is, can she hold up a picture on her own? This week that question is answered resoundingly and positively in War and Peace, which opens in London. For the film and her heart-rendering beautiful performance as Natasha proves she's not only a first-rank star, but she has finally justified that Oscar too. And the film wins Picturegoer's Seal of Merit. The sad truth is that Don Hartman's doubts were valid. Many Picturegoers supported them. Her fey-gay princess in Roman Holiday were delightful, but how much of it was acting? The film too was not the success everyone expected, despite the fact that Audrey's co-star Gregory Peck was the idol of the box office. I'm surprised about that. And my second Hollywood picture, Sabrina Fair, didn't do much to convince Picturegoers further that Audrey was Oscar-worthy. I think her films are more popular now then, because those to me are classics. Anyway, I digress. But finally, in War and Peace, the real actress in Hepburn emerges. The role spans the years in which the gay teenager suffers tragedy, emotionally upset, and matures into a characterful woman. It's the kind of challenge Audrey has never had is on the screen before, and she comes through it completely triumphant. Even now, it's fair to assume that she'll be nominated for another Oscar on the strength of this role. If she wins it, there'll be no more doubts, for this will be the Oscar that Audrey has really earned. The Sphinx smiled for me. Despite the fabulous success of The King and I, Yul Brynner has no doubts about the value to his career of The Ten Commandments, the most important film I've made yet. While playing the tyrannical Pharaoh Ramesses II in the film, his admiration for Cecil DeMille grew scene by scene. A lot of people suggest Brynner will probably disagree with DeMille's conception of the story, but it's impossible not to respect it. So this colour picture, it's unusual actually, this colour picture, and that of Charlton Heston were taken by Kash Ottawa. In The Ten Commandments, I play the wife of Moses, my husband is portrayed. The amazing Mrs. Everett out of doors. The problem film turns out perfect. Oh, they're referring to the War and Peace of Audrey Hepburn, we were reading a moment ago. Possibly a film. Should look up again. I do hope you can hear me okay. It started to absolutely pour outside of this window behind me. It's such a shame because it was glorious weather yesterday. Windy, but nice to see the sun shining. And it's referring to somebody up there likes me again with Paul Newman. Again, it's a film possibly to go back to see. Okay, so we've read about Elvis Presley in a couple of the other magazines, and it continues with this part. The incredible Elvis Presley, he astounded Hollywood. Love Me Tender is Presley's first picture. He's a natural, says the studio. Richard Egan is its co-star, and of course Presley sings and serenades Deborah Paget. For weeks Presley rehearsed his act for Las Vegas. It was an important day in his career, and he knew it. He had been booked into the plushy Venus room at the New Frontier Hotel with a salary of £4,000 a week, and he intended to earn it. But it wasn't so easy. Las Vegas was not Memphis. Instead of wild-eyed youngsters, Presley pranced on stage to face bored-looking, supercritical sophisticates who were mainly there to gamble. There were no teenagers, few, not allowed in the hotels at night unless you are 21. There were no screams to herald his walk on stage. Instead, there was silence. On what passes for silence in Las Vegas, where you chink of the fruit machines provides permanent background music, says Presley. I just stood there and gaped at them, and they just sat there and gaped at me. I wasn't used to it. It unnerved me. Taking up a stance, he began strumming the guitar. 1 for the money, 2 for the show, and 3 for the ready and go, get go. He plunged on with I Was the One, Tutti Frutti, and Heartbreak Hotel. You could almost hear the sneers. The audience sat there looking at the tall, good classic Barrymore profile and rebellious, downturned mouth, they sat on their hands. For the first time in his career, Presley knew he wasn't going over. It was a shattering experience for a young man, barely 21, who had enjoyed nothing but success since his first stage experience. They just didn't dig me, he says. They weren't my kind of audience. They were awful. Presley went on, hoping, thrashing, and hopping around like a fish in a net, and the audience went on, sneering. Nothing he could do impressed them. They viewed this new oddity with iceberg eyes, and on the second night Presley was switched from closing the show to opening it. Yes, he was a flop. Only one thing saved the entire booking from complete failure: the special Saturday afternoon matinee arranged by the management. This was just like the old times. A screaming, laughing crowd of youngsters swarmed into the 1,000-seater restaurant and proceeded to wreck the place while Presley sang. After it was over, he fled to the safety of his room, hotly pursued by the mob as clothes were ripped off. It was no use. They knocked the door down, seized him, and began to rip off his clothes. In the end, the police had to be called in. But Presley didn't mind a bit, for his pride had been saved. Although dismayed by his reception in Las Vegas, Presley determined to enjoy the place. It is a town that never sleeps, for gambling goes on 24 hours a day, and that pleased him. His cousin Gene Smith, who acts as a valet companion, says, "Strange that Elvis should have enjoyed Vegas. Really, he doesn't smoke or drink or gamble, but he likes to stay all night talking, and in Vegas he could." As soon as his booking in Vegas was over, Presley turned his eyes to Hollywood. Hal Wallis had promised him a screen test some months back, and Presley was determined to show that he could act. Elvis Presley Enterprises by this time was big business, and his first year it had made £100,000. This year it grossed £250,000, of which Presley received more than £3,000 a week. Most of it goes into the bank, he told me. I think I've already saved enough to live on for the rest of my life. I'm not a fool. I know a performer's days are numbered, and that tomorrow I may not be worth 2 cents. That's why I'm saving hard. So to Hollywood went Presley. He had learned to sing by listening to hillbilly songs in his parents' gramophone, and he was sure he could learn to act by watching the techniques of experienced actors. For months he'd been going to pictures, watching stars like Brando, Steiger and James Dean. Now he wanted to have a go himself. It was quite extraordinary, says producer Al Wallis. Presley walked on the set to do his test with veteran actor Frank Phelan. I hadn't a clue how he would do. He might have been quite awful, but after a few minutes I knew he was a natural, like Sinatra, and with just as much personality. Yes, Hollywood liked Presley, and 20th Century Fox soon had him lined up for Love Me Tender. Said 20th Century Fox executive, the stars in the film with him, Deborah Baggett and Richard Egan. They are amazed at the maturity of the young, untried screen performer. He acted, though it was his 100th film, not his first. In truth, Presley felt quite at home in front of the cameras. Hardly had Love Me Tender finished before excited executives were talking of linking Presley in another film with Busty Jane Mansfield, their latest import from New York. That, wrote one Hollywood columnist, should be a film worth seeing for several reasons. I long to come to Britain, Presley said when I saw him. I think they'd dig me there, and when might that be? Next year, said Presley, unless the army calls. Presley is A1 and due to be called up unless Washington exempts him, but there will be mean dropping from £3,000 to £10 a week, Presley thinks he might enjoy it. It will give me time to polish up my grammar a little, he grins, and to decide where I'm going and what I'm going to do when I get there. This is true, for Presley has hardly had a moment to look back since he began this phenomenal rise to fame 2 years ago. His is the biggest show business success story of modern times, easily outpacing Sinatra's in his heyday. There never was anybody quite like Elvis Presley, says his manager, Colonel Parker. He can say that again. Oh my goodness. Makes me go a little bit tingly when you think about the other articles that we read, and even the reception from Las Vegas. That predominantly was a flop, but as we know now, far from it. Too many themes. It's time that the recording company to realise the vital fact. Plenty of fine film music, let's face it, written deliberately as an orchestrated sound. Now that lovely advert. For a lovelier balm this Christmas. Britain is so broad-minded, says America's strip girl. No dancer or singer, Lily Simpson has stripped her way to fame. Goodness me. The toughest man in the West. Clint Walker is winning the Battle of the West. At first I thought that was Charlton Heston, but Clint Walker. Who will win the Western War? Already shooting it out on your TV and cinema screens are such dreadnoughts as Fess Parker, James Arness, Audrey Hepburn and Hugh O'Brien. But my money is on Clint Walker, the biggest, brawniest hero of the West. Brando goes for warmth. Again, referring back to the article we read earlier on, there is a similarity, isn't there, between Paul Newman and Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando, who gambles so successfully with love in Samuel Goldwyn's Guys and Dolls, has definitely ideas on women. I asked him which qualities he valued most. I suppose I value each woman for what she has to offer: charm, beauty, wit, intelligence, or humour. It's possible to enjoy the company of a girl with unlimited charm, but not much intelligence, or to find pleasure talking to an intelligent woman who isn't pretty. But remembering the women you found most attractive in the past, isn't there some quality that they all shared? I asked. Well, yes, he answered. I think warmth is a quality they all had. I don't mean spontaneity necessarily, because a girl may be shy and quiet and still have warmth. It's more being disposed to like people, being aware of their tastes and interests. Would that be your definition of charm? I asked. Maybe, Brando grinned, but charm is a personal thing. Everyone has charm for somebody. I asked Brando to name a woman he particularly admired. Mrs. Pandit, he replied. Mrs. Vaya Pandit was former president of the UN General Assembly and now India's High Commissioner in London. I think she is a refined, highly evolved, gracious human being. Because of women's position as primarily a wife and mother, sometimes it's difficult for her to reveal her own fine qualities. Often a woman's qualities are revealed through the man she loves. Today's women's status in the world is improving. What traits would you seek in a woman with whom you expected to have a lasting friendship? I then asked. I like women without guile, honest and direct. miss any of these relaxing videos, subscribe to my channel. I really do appreciate it. And like any of these videos. So please take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself.